Hi, this is Diana from Yarnetti's Crochet, and I'm here to talk with you about part 2 of my experiences with learning how to be a crochet instructor through the Craft Yarn Council Certified Instructor Program. I'm working on the Level 1 certification. I started this process in January of this year, 2026. And I have about half of my student teaching hours done, and I have part of my samples and coursework written assignments done, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I have about 6 more. I have to finish up in about 3 more months. You get a total of 6 months to complete the program for one level. So let's talk about how I'm going to talk about this in a minute. Let's talk about how the craft yarn or the crochet instructor program works. So you go to the site, which I have here, and I will put in the show notes. You go to the site and you pay the fee. Right now it costs about $150 for the course. And after you pay the fee, in a couple days, you're going to get an email from your cooperating teacher with PDF attachments for your assignments, a technical manual, and a teacher manual. And the program consists of completing a series of crochet samples that are made according to the specific information in the assignment handout and the technical manual. And you need to complete a total of 15 hours of student teaching. And there's also some additional written assignments that are required as part of the student teaching. And then you submit all of your samples and your assignments for review. Your cooperating teacher reviews your items, and if they feel like anything is lacking, they send it back and say, do this over, and then you have to resubmit. No pressure. You know, it's there's definitely some rigor there, which makes the certification worth something, I guess. So where I'm at right now is I have, like I said, I have about half my student teaching hours completed, and I'm working on my swatches. So when I told you that you will receive an email with the PDF attachments for your technical manual and your assignments, those documents, can you hear the sigh in my voice? Those documents are critical to your completion of the class. And the issue with these documents is they are not device friendly. They have very good tables of contents, but you can't click on a page 52 that has, how to make a granny square according to their standards, and then you go to that page. It's not hyperlinked within the PDF. You're going to have to print it out. You're going to have to print it out, and what I ended up doing is I put it in a binder. As you can, I divided up the assignment packet with the technical manual and the teacher manual in different sections in a binder, because what they require you to do is flip back and forth. You have to make your swatches, you have to cross-check between the assignment handout and the technical handout, which requires flipping back and forth and double-checking and rechecking. And this does not work well if you've just downloaded the PDF onto a device, because you're going to be scroll. It's just like, it's just not going to work. It pretty much forces you to print everything out, which is annoying. I'm not going to lie, because some of the materials they sucked up a lot of toner, which is discouraging, but yeah, big sigh. So, I'm working on my samples. There's several samples that you have to make. as you're making your samples, make sure you have lots of different types of hooks. I have different sizes of hooks. Mostly you're going to be using probably between a 4.5 to, I don't know if I used a J hook on anything, but I did end up going down all the way to a 4.5 with some things. And I used different styles of hooks. This is a boy. I used a boy hook on, I think, one sample. I used my Clover Amore on a couple samples. I used my Susan Bates inline on a couple samples. And one in particular, I used my Susan Bates acrylic hook on a sample because I struggle with, I can get the width on my samples, but I really struggle to get the height. So have lots of different hooks, styles, and also help yourself by having 4-weight. You're required to use 4-weight yarn in a light color. So have different yarns with a range of wraps per inch. And what I mean by that is some 4-weight yarns are denser or have a tighter twist or more plies, and they work up larger than other 4-weight yarns. So sometimes you have to combine a yarn that has a lower wraps per inch that's a little bit more dense with maybe a smaller hook in order to get gauge. And, one thing that I had to play with a lot in order to get my height on my stitches was playing with that golden loop. And if you don't know what the golden loop is, that's a whole video in of itself, because it's an important concept to help you change the height of your stitches. Again, you have to cross-check in order to make these samples. You got to cross-check and flip back and forth between the written materials. You need to take extra care in weaving in those tails. I recommend using a metal ruler. I wouldn't use a measuring tape when measuring your samples. I don't know what kind of ruler they use to measure the sample, but I would use a metal ruler because you're just going to get a higher level of accuracy. That's just my opinion. And the other thing is, be careful when you're blocking. You should block your samples even if you're using acrylic yarn, because it will help the drape and the feel, but don't over steam it if you're using acrylic, because you might kill it. You might kill the yarn, and you can always tell if it got killed because it gets kind of shiny. Because acrylic yarn is essentially plastic, so you need to be just use look at your yarn labels and follow the advice on your yarn labels, and care when blocking. Because I think what happens is sometimes people, you're struggling so hard. All the samples need to be 5-inch squares, and you've worked so hard to get that 5-inch squares that maybe you're off by just a quarter of an inch, and you're like, I'm gonna try to get that quarter of an inch by blocking, which is tough to do with acrylic. I've made some of my samples over so many times I cannot even tell you. It's I know I need to just walk away right now from my samples because they're just making me crazy. The part of this experience that I continue to enjoy is the student teaching part of the experience. And I finished up, I had a session with my 2 volunteer students the other night, and some of the things that I'm learning is I need to continue to be flexible. And one thing that I did, I think I might have mentioned this in the last video, I can't remember, but I created a binder of free patterns from yarnspirations.com, and I organized the patterns into project types that my students seemed to be interested in, like home deck or blankets or sweaters or anything that they mentioned. And I looked for patterns that ranged from beginner easy all the way to intermediate, so I could show them the possibilities. Because if they come to class and they're like, oh, I really want to make a sweater. I want to make a granny square sweater. Well, I can show them what it takes. And that way if they're like, yeah, I really want to make that, I can say to them, listen, you can totally make that. These are the skills you need to make sure that you can create that granny square sweater to fit you. And it just provides a little bit of inspiration for them and a little bit of a reality check for them. And it honors their personal goals and their personal journey. So it's been a really nice, it's been a nice resource. I've referred to it a lot. I'm making sure I explain why I'm teaching certain skills. So again, I think this ties back to projects that you can say, listen, we're learning the how to crochet in the back loop because you can make really cool ribbing. And look, this is where you use a ribbing on a sweater, or this is how you can use ribbing in a scarf or in a hat. So then they're like, just always giving them the why so they get the big picture. And the other thing that's really been great is because I have a little bit of I have a huge hook collection. I have a lot of hooks, and I've been able to use those hooks, let my students try out a bunch of different hooks. And I will say, I said, I wanted my students to have a Susan Bates, either 5 or 5.5 millimeter hook or 6 millimeter hook. And I'm almost wondering if that was a mistake, because when they went to purchase their hook, they couldn't purchase a single hook. They had to buy a set. So they end up buying whole sets. And I'm like, ugh. I mean, I don't want to waste people's money. If they don't like a hook, I don't want them to have a whole set of hooks that they're not going to use that they don't like. I don't lend hooks because if they don't come back or they get lost, then I don't have the hook for the next student. So I don't lend, but I'm wondering, like when I tried out a variety of hooks with a particular student. I tried a boy hook. This was bad. It was just like she got so frustrated immediately. This wasn't, the Susan Bates wasn't too bad. I tried acrylic hooks. I tried wooden hooks. I tried bamboo hooks, and I put a Clover and More in her hand. This is a Clover and More, and it changed everything. It changed everything for this student. So part of me is just like, maybe I should have said, let's start with a Clover and More. Because you can buy a single Clover and More. You don't have to buy a whole set. She had access to a store that she could have purchased one hook. And I just wonder. I don't know. But anyway, having a variety of hooks where they can try out right away is really helpful. And the other thing that's helpful too is have different yarns. Like I had a student that right away she's like, oh, I want to make a dishcloth and I'm going to go out and buy some cotton yarn. And I said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. Here, let me give you a skein of one of my sugar and cream yarn. Take it home, and it recommends an H or an I hook. You have both hooks. Go ahead and try it and see what you think. She came back. She's like, oh my gosh, I hated using that yarn. I mean, I use sugar and cream yarn, but I don't recommend it for beginners because it splits so bad. That's why I don't necessarily agree with a beginner project being a dishcloth, because I think 100% cotton yarn, it's just really hard to work with, and it can drag so badly on some hooks. It drags less on a Clover and More, but boy, oh boy, does it drag. It drags really bad. So I want to set my students up for success. So having those tools that you can I send home yarn. I'll send yarn home. I don't care about that. I just don't lend my hooks out. But it was a learning experience for her, and she didn't have to go out and buy yarn to learn that, I'll try those things, but maybe not right now. And that's kind of the attitude that I have a lot of times is, yes, you can do this. Maybe you want to think about it for the future. Right now, let's learn these things because it will help you get to that point where you can do anything you want to do on your own. You won't need me. So I'm learning a lot. I have some goals for my next session, my next couple of sessions. I need to increase my communication without being a pest. And I think one of the things that's helpful is to send out emails or texts that provide a little bit of a summary of what we learned and what we talked about and maybe what we would like to do next, or at least pose a question to them. Like, keep in mind the questions that you have, bring them to class the next time. And I want things to be tailored to the student. One thing in the Craft Yarn Council certified instructor program is they want you to create lesson plans for specific, like a 2-hour session with specific projects. I mean, I'll do the assignment, but that's not how I currently feel like I would ever teach beginners. 2 hours is a long time. These people have to come after work. They don't have 2 hours after work. If they can come for an hour, that's great. And I want to honor their goals. I'm going to take their goals and their ideas and maybe shape it in a way that helps them to achieve it. Maybe, massage it a little bit. But I'm not going to say, this is what you're making. I just feel like I don't like it when people do that to me, and I'm not going to do it to my students. So I'm not going to do that in reality with my students, but I will do the assignment according to the Craft Yarn Council. So, okay. I'm going to continue to make some support videos for them. I'm going to continue to practice my left-handed crochet skills. This is good for me because it helps remind me of the challenge of learning how to crochet. That mindset is important when you're trying to put yourself in the position of your students to help them, giving them the just right advice or the just right encouragement they need. And again, providing that overview of what we're learning. And they don't need mastery, because I want them to value not just learning the crochet skill, but absorbing the knowledge about crochet, because mastery takes a long time. This is like learning to play an instrument or learning to drive a car. Mastery takes hours and hours and hours and hours. But just think about all of your knowledge that you have gained over such a short period of time. And I want them to value not just their skills, but their knowledge, and always come back to the big picture of why you're learning what you're learning, and bring it back to their own personal goals. So I hope you find this helpful if you're interested in becoming a crochet teacher, or you are thinking about starting the Craft Yarn Council Certified Instructor Program. I have a lot of thoughts. I think that I'm going to say right now what I really appreciate about the program is that it is comprehensive, and there's a very nice focus on actually teaching the craft of crochet. And I appreciate that very much.